Are you ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Hello, Roundtable family. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network, or you're watching us on Broadway World or over on social media. You know, in a past life during COVID, I co-hosted a show called Quarantine, Cabaret, and Cocktails, and we reunited the cast of Mamma Mia. And one of the people was Karen Mason. And if you know about Mamma Mia, Karen Mason sings her face off. She has like 86 MAC awards. I have 0. I don't even have a nomination. But let's not even start that. She's a Lifetime Achievement Award winner. She's a Broadway star. She's performed across this entire country. She's performed everywhere with everyone. And she's a brand new album called All That Jazz. Kander Ebb, Karen Mason, sign me up. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you, Robert, so much for having me. It's good to see you again.
It's
I forgot about the Mamma Mia reunion.
Well, I knew that I spoke to you, and I knew that was another show and another lifetime ago. And then I was thinking, and I said, Karen Mason. I spoke to Karen Mason, and I was like, she is the Mamma Mia Karen Mason.
Well, I don't know if I take that credit, but yes, I'm happy to be one of a trio.
Yes, and you absolutely are. And your career is fascinating because you've done a bunch of Broadway. If it's Sunset Boulevard, if it's Mamma Mia that ran for 168 years, if it's your recording career, I joked about MAC awards and all of that, but
I like 86, even though it's not even that old, but 86.
And a Lifetime Achievement Award winner.
Yeah,
thank
you. That was fun. I think they just did that so I couldn't win any more awards.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying that arrogantly. I'm really not. But I think that's basically what I was told.
Well, what I love your Lifetime Award because nightclubs and stage, you leave your house, you leave the people you love to travel around the country and sing for us. And that comes at a cost. And we appreciate you.
What a sweet way to describe it. Thank you. Very few people appreciate what all people in show business do, which is basically drop everything in their homes and, head out.
And sing for the people.
Yeah.
So speaking of singing for the people, sometimes you go in a recording studio and sing for the people. Yeah. This album I am so excited. America, World, and this picture, Karen Mason and All That Jazz.
Isn't that picture? I swear to God, I met Gene Reed, who's the photographer, a few years back. I had seen his work with Susie Mosier and Jim Caruso and a few other people, and I thought, I wonder if he could do that for me. And we giggled and laughed through our entire first session. I thought, oh yeah, this, and then to end up with the pictures that he produces, it's, I always think, oh no, that can't be me. No. Now that was 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, down in Soho. That cannot be me, but he makes it iconic.
Well, it's you.
Well, thank you. It's me on a very good day.
No, and it's stunning. It's beautiful. And what I love about this album, which I want people to know, that the album, All That Jazz, you can listen to it wherever music is heard. And if you want more information, you could go to KarenMason.com. Yeah. And you could go to Instagram. You could go to Karen Mason Diva at Instagram as well. We know some of the big Kander, and everyone knows some of the big Kander and Ebb moments, and everyone knows some songs, and you give them to us. You give us All That Jazz. You give us Maybe This Time. You give us a special New York moment. How World Goes Round and Cabaret. But there's some deep cut. How did you pick the songs on this?
Well, I'm very lucky that I work with two very brilliant people, Christopher Denny and Barry Kleinbort. And when we were putting together this show that became the album, Barry he just has all kinds of information in his brain. And he's very generous with it. And was telling me some of the songs that he knew that, some of the information. I mean, one of the smart ones is from a show that was never produced, called Golden Gate, and it was done. And this goes to show the length to which artists will go to get a gig. They wrote an entire musical for an audition for a job. I mean, isn't that spectacular? Isn't that is way beyond? That's so humble in the truest sense of the word, and and glorious and smart, and that just goes to show how in sync they were as artists together. So that's, we knew that I couldn't do an hour of 11 o'clock numbers. So we had to stick in a few smaller numbers. And a friend of mine, the Go Back Home, which I think is, it just is such a beautiful, magnificent song from Scottsboro Boys.
Yes.
And my friend, who I've known since the 70s, and his name was Tom Bozell. He passed away recently. And Tom said, you have to sing Go Back Home. I think you'd sound great singing it. And, when someone says that to you, that's such a supreme compliment from a friend who's known you through all kinds of hair colors and outfit changes, that you kind of have to pay attention. So I think some of the smaller cuts are my favorites. I love singing those big ball busters, but there's something very, very intimate about singing those small little numbers. To me, singing with Christopher Denny at the piano, the smaller numbers is where we communicate, where it's just this heart conversation, where we both are telling a story, very personal story, maybe not
Right.
the same story, but somehow it just sinks together, and listening to each other and just expanding on that. That is to me without sounding too coarse, that to me is the sex of show business. That's the sex of music.
I hear you. It's after we have the meal. It's after we have it's that intimate, quiet.
Right.
Yes, Karen, at least let us have dinner first before we get to the end.
We'll supply cigarettes
Okay.
for that cigarette afterwards. Yeah, we have to share a cigarette.
When you put this album together, I was surprised at the set list, not the song selection, because I love the song selection, but I was surprised at how you play. I'm a big fan of the album should be listened to from beginning to end in order, because you put thought and process into that.
Yes.
And I'm sure, I don't know if in your live show, which 54 Below, Davenport's in Chicago, KarenMason.com, get your tickets because you're going to hear these songs in person. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you put songs in an order. All that jazz to me is and welcome and is all to me is quintessential opener. But in my head, I'm like, I'm ready for New York, New York. I'm ready for Cabaret. And then you do a quiet thing as the last song. You kind of stack the songs. What Ring Them Bells is another big number, but you put this album together like a roller coaster, like a dance, like something special. What was it like to put them in order?
Well, when we were putting together our show list, you always have to think about that. I learned that very early on, I come from a theatrical background. I mean, that's why I'm very lucky that I go back and forth, between theater and concert work and recording, is that I like the storytelling part of it. And with a good story, you can't give it all away in the very first few minutes, or else nobody's going to be sitting there at the end. So, you have this arc that you have to create. You have to do that in a show, in a concert. And the same thing, I'm glad you appreciate that, because very few people do that anymore. But, because everybody's under a time constraint, and they pick this song and they pick that song. But if you listen to the whole album, you get such a different experience, and you might discover some new song that you didn't know. I love ending our CDs, our albums. My husband keeps correcting me on that, because I keep calling it a CD. And he keeps going, no, Karen, it's an album now. Okay, great.
Everything old is new again, is what it is.
Well, hey, I'm counting on that.
That's right.
This old girl, I'm counting on that being new again.
I love that. I get that.
But, to put that little thank you at the end, you know, it's just a lot of thought does go into it. And thank you for appreciating that. My husband, Paul Rolnick, who produced it, he's very much a storyteller and never how can I say this? He never overproduces, which I think is great. So you get, I wouldn't say flawed performances, but you get real performances. Right. And he always says, that when he gets the chills, when he gets, the little hair raising, that's when he knows it's right. And it could be the first take, it could be the last take. It's usually the first take, so.
I love it. Well, we see recordings, a lot of new music is auto-tuned to death, and it loses personality, and it loses the performance.
Absolutely. One of the first albums that I bought by myself, aside from the Beatles, was Barbra Streisand, and her first album, and it was Funny Girl. When they left in a little crack, a little, and I don't think you ever have heard that again on a Barbra Streisand album, but I got to tell you, that affected me because I thought, that's so human, so real, that I loved her even more for that because it felt like something that could happen to me. It didn't feel like this, otherworldly, which, she is otherworldly and so brilliant. But it felt like it was okay. It was okay to be real and human.
Yes. Well, speaking of Barbra Streisand, My Coloring Book, which is a song that she has covered, is on the album as well. And many songs.
That's pretty ballsy, isn't it?
No, but you could do it, Karen Mason. You could do it. I was thinking about But the World Goes Round. Didn't you do the show? Didn't you?
I did.
You did?
Yeah, I was in it from the very beginning when it was. We did it out at the Whole Theater, which was Olympia Dukakis's theater out in New Jersey somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of the same people. At that time, Paige O'Hara was in the cast, and then we moved to Off-Broadway, and Paige got. So sad for her, she got Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was very sad. But we were sad to see her go.
Yes.
So happy for her. And then Brenda Presley came in. And so it was Bob Cuccioli, Jimmy Walton, Karen Ziemba, myself, and Brenda Presley Off-Broadway.
Oh, a bunch of people who could sing their teeth out.
Yeah, and a dandy group of people.
If people are watching you and they're not from this area, or they don't go to Broadway or whatever, you may know Karen Mason, if you may have just seen her on Halston, or you may have seen her on Law and Order and all this fun stuff, all the television appearances and stuff like that. And I was thinking about Halston because Halston, a lot of these Kander Ebb songs are very synonymous with Liza Minnelli, and Halston's synonymous with Liza Minnelli, and etc. And sometimes we're talking about Streisand, we're talking about Liza. They're iconic voices, they're iconic arrangements. How did you play and tinker with the arrangements and your own performance to make them Karen Mason?
Yeah, that's always a challenge, isn't it? And you don't want to arrange things, because if everything is over arranged, then nothing is new. Mm-hmm. If everything is new, nothing is new. And there were certain things that like Ring Them Bells is pretty close to the way that John and Fred wrote it, which, you can't really improve on their brilliance. With all that jazz, we were doing the arrangement for Carnegie Hall. That was the first time we did it. It was an event at Carnegie Hall with the New York Pops honoring John and Fred, when they became national landmarks. Who knew? Who knew a person could be a landmark? But they are. And I was asked to do it, and John actually got in touch with Chris and said he wishes he had thought of that, because we did, we put in the Roxy theme as the vamp, and he says he wishes he had thought of that. So I mean, we are very judicious with how we do that. I think probably the one that's the most arranged is New York, New York, on the album, because New York, New York is so iconic. How do we bring a new spin to it? What does it mean to me, that song? And many years ago, I had an arrangement with my first music director, Brian Lasser, of All I Need Is One Good Break, Just One Good Break, and Mr. Watch My Speed from Flora the Red Menace. And boy, I loved singing that, because that was how I felt in Chicago. It's like, get me out of here, get me to New York. I mean, I love Chicago,
Yes.
but I wanted to be in New York. And so it just felt like this. Well, because Barry and Chris said, how about we try that? And it just felt like a natural. It just felt like each segment just kept telling more and more of the story until, your head wants to explode. And it's, I love that arrangement. It's a bitch to sing, but but what if Kander and Ebb isn't, right?
They all are. And what's brilliant about them is they don't always sound as hard as they are. It's like when people say, oh, it's just a fun song to sing in the car. Okay, good. Try to sing Cabaret on stage. Try to sing New York, New York with the key changes on stage. It's not as easy as they make it sound, as you make it sound.
No, listen, it's always a challenge, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty great.
If you're listening to us before the 25th, the album is out, and you're like, hey, I'm on Spotify. Hey, I'm on Apple Music, and I can't preload I'll get the album on iTunes. You could pre-order the album, and you could pre-save the album. But the album, it's the 25th. So if you're watching us after that, just know that.
Isn't that exciting? I've never had an album drop.
It's dropping, Karen. The album's going to drop. And then you're going to have release concerts. So you're at 54 Below on November 10th.
Yes.
And then you're at Davenport's back in Chicago, which of course she loves Chicago. She was just kidding about leaving. She's going back already.
I go back all the time. In fact, I opened Davenport's.
That's
20 years
right.
ago, I think.
Of course she did. She brought all 86 Mac Awards with her right on the stage.
I cart them on. Yeah. I wear them as a necklace. Yeah.
Perfect. A lot of earrings, the whole set. November 13th through 16th. I was just trying to win a Broadway World Cabaret Award, and then Jeff Harner keeps stealing them. And then I just gave up. And I told him on this show, give it up, Jeff.
He'll get a lifetime achievement, and then he won't be able to win anymore.
Good. Then I'm back in the race. So November 13th to the 16th. And the ticket information is, again, all over at KarenMason.com. So what is the live show like? Is it this album? Is there trip? What are you doing?
No, we're actually going to do a kind of a combination of things, because we already did the Kander and Ebb show a few times. And we'd like to, there are certain things that we really love. There's a couple of arrangements about Broadway that we haven't done in a while that I love singing. And so we're going to include some of that stuff. My Broadway history, doing a song from Play Me a Country Song, which was my first Broadway show, and very few people know about it. Have heard of it, actually, more than anything. And so we're doing one of the songs from that, and from Torch Song Trilogy, when I took over for Susan Edwards, and when it opened on Broadway, and from Mamma Mia, and just it's going to be a lovely, a really special evening. And I'm wearing something I have never worn on a stage here in New York. A beaded gown.
A beaded gown.
A beaded gown.
Come on. I say this about 54 Below. You go down there, you get a little Caesar salad, you get a glass of wine. It's Broadway's living room. You're going to be like this close. You're going to be like a dermatologist appointment to Karen Mason. It's going to be right here. She's going to sing these songs to your face. I was thinking about the album, everyone. and all that jazz, a collection of songs by the legendary Kander Ebb, by the beautifully amazing voice that is Karen Mason.
Thank you.
And so I get married in May, and my partner, he's from Detroit.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And Darius is from Detroit, where we get the reputation like a good Midwestern city like Chicago, but Detroit less Broadway known than even Chicago. Like Detroit is Motown and Aretha Franklin, but
right.
And one day he's cleaning the bathroom, and I hear him singing, "Maybe This Time," and I said, "What the hell are you singing?" And he said, "Oh, I love Cabaret." And I said, "Fine, we can get married, because it's just no matter where you live, no matter if you've seen a million Broadway, it is just a American standard. This music is standard, American songbook standards."
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame that Kander and Ebb aren't known as Kander and Ebb the way that Rodgers and Hammerstein are known. But, the world changed, and all that popular music that used to be directly from Broadway shifted just a little bit, and yet it's exactly what you just said. Everybody knows New York, New York. Right. Everybody knows Maybe This Time. It's there. They just don't know who wrote it.
Well, they're going to know now.
Well, I hope so.
And there's been a Kander and Ebb show on Broadway for decades without
it's the longest running American musical is Chicago.
So you want to hear
longest running.
And you can get a little piece of that with all that jazz on the album. Your relationship with them, you had a personal, you knew them, they knew you, they were in the same circles as you. What was it like to see them or to be in social settings with them?
Well, I mean, I'm always in awe. I'm definitely one of those, Midwestern girls who is in awe of them. They've been too big a part of my life for too long for me not to be in awe of them. They were around for In the World Goes Round. So what a great gift that was, to be able to go out for drinks with John Kander and Fred. I mean, really? And after the show was over, I mean, they were so kind to all of us and so giving. And after the show was over, John asked me to do a demo for a new Broadway show that they were doing called The Visit. So I did the demos for that. And I mean, come on, how lucky am I? Gee wee wow. How lucky can you get, And John, I asked him if he would write the liner notes for the album. And he didn't hesitate. He said, absolutely, sure, yes. I have 2 fan letters. I love getting notes from songwriters, when they compliment you. Of course, who doesn't like getting a note from somebody who compliments you? But I save them all, and both Fred and John sent me notes throughout the years, and that's very special. I mean, these are icons. They are these are the really, really talented people. And, I feel very lucky to have rubbed elbows with them.
Well, I can't think of a better tribute and love letter to them than the care and love that you've put into creating these 14 tracks that will be out from this album. It is the ultimate gift to them and to the audience that you're sharing these songs with us, and a new generation will get to hear. I just look at this list and I remember the first time seeing Chicago, or I remember the pay-per-view where Liza sang Ring Them Bells, Fly from the Fox back in the day. Brilliant.
I mean, listen, we don't have the dancers or the bells, but it's still a pretty darn good rendition of it. And that was the one song from In the World Goes Round that was not included on the album.
Oh, so
I'd never recorded it. Yeah. So
we got it now, and then The World Goes Round, which is iconic. What a fun song to see perform! What a fun song to sing! And this album is going to be, as the young kids say, bangers from top to bottom. So we are. We are here.
Gee, I hope so.
It is going to be. I want people to know that you can get your tickets. If you're in Chicago or you're in New York, you can go to KarenMason.com where the link is available where you can grab your tickets. You can follow Karen on Instagram. And then October 25th, everybody get the album, pre-save it or stream it wherever music is heard. And we love your voice. And I'm so happy you're going to sing a little Mamma Mia, because if I listen to that soundtrack and I remember seeing it on Broadway it makes me cry a little because it's about a mom and a daughter. And even if the mom was a little skanky, no shade.
Well, skanky's kind of a big word.
Okay. I apologize for my trashy Jersey self. Maybe the mom was a little promiscuous, was having fun. She was having fun.
Hey, it was the 70s.
It was the 70s.
We all were tramps in the 70s. We all were. I'm just saying.
That might be how I got here. I'm in 83. It might have carried over a few years.
That was the best thing about the 70s.
I just want to let you know, when I montage my show together, there might be a clip of Karen Mason saying, "We were all tramps in the 70s." That might be the piece.
That's the beauty of getting older. I can say all these things that I've been thinking for years.
Well, last week, Lilius White told us that we're all hoes because we're all out here working for money.
See,
so
there you go.
Listen to the legends that do it.
Listen to the old people.
No. I'm going to get myself out of this before I get in more trouble. I want everybody to stream the album and make sure wherever Karen Mason is singing, you get your ticket and you show up. We love you here. We are so grateful to be here, and we hope you come back anytime, any moment. Our show's your show.
Anytime. I love blabbing with you. It's just so much fun. Anytime. I hope you can come to the show. Yeah, please. Please, everybody, get this album wherever you just get it from Spotify, get it from Apple, get it from Deezer, all these places that I have not got a clue how to get there. But please do it.
Yes, done. We're all getting it. We're all homework. Get it. Done. Thank you so much, Ms. Mason. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.